everybody who was able to come this morning. My name's Mariah Garrison. I'm going to be filling in for Raquel as the introducer this morning. And we have an awesome guest from Colorado Association of Conservation Districts, or CACD. His name is TJ Tisdale, and he's going to be talking to us today about all of CACD's resolutions and awards. So I'll hand it over to him and I'll monitor the chat for any questions.
Sweet. Thank you, Mariah, for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is TJ Tisdale. I'm with the Colorado Association of Conservation District. I'm the Eastern Watershed Technician, and we're here to talk about the CACD resolutions and awards process. We also have Abby Gray on the call too, so if you have any questions at any moment, please feel free to just put it into the chat, and we also have time at the end of the presentation for any verbal questions. So let's get started. So what is a resolution? So a resolution is a formal statement of opinion or a decision to take an action. And in the context of CACD, this is the Conservation District's opportunity to help direct the advocacy and policy work of CACD. The Conservation Districts can provide their input on any natural resource topics of concern, whether it's soil health, water issue, energy, land use. Any topics, you will have the opportunity to give a formal opinion on that topic. And these resolutions have an effect at both or at all levels of government, whether it's the local, regional, state, or even the national. A resolution can look like either being a policy or an action item. So looking at these sticky notes here, first starting with policy. So a policy resolution is a resolution that will inform kind of like the long-term CACD or NACD position. And these resolutions, when they're if they're accepted and adopted, will be placed into our policy book for eternity, until an amendment or change happens to that policy, as opposed to an action item. So an action item is more of like an immediate ask through a resolution. And so these are typically a task or an activity or a request that you as a district would like to see CACD do. So this often looks like lobbying for a specific policy that's in legislation right now, or any other kind of advocacy work. The cool things about resolution is that it can be both. Sometimes it can be both a policy item or an action item, meaning that it can be a long-term adopted change within the policy book, but also an ask for something or an action that's being taken throughout the lifespan of that policy. So both resolutions and awards will go through the similar process. Looking at this pyramid on the left here, resolutions and awards start at you, the conservation district. It starts at your level. You guys are the base of the pyramid, and where everything is, you support everything. So starting with the districts, you write a resolution or nominate an award, write an award nomination. And from there, it'll move up to the watershed level where it'll have its own internal review. And finally, it'll move up to the peak of the pyramid, which is the state association, which is all of Colorado, where all the conservation districts have a kind of final vote or say on the resolutions that are adopted. Or resolutions that are proposed, excuse me. Again, resolutions can either be a policy or an action item, and meaning they could be also a policy amendment. So looking at the current policy book, if there's a change that you as a district would like to see, it could be an amendment to that, or it could be a completely new policy, as well as an action item. And in terms of awards, these are our 6 award categories: District of the Year, Educator of the Year, CACD Hall of Fame, the Education Program of the Year, Supervisor of the Year, or Conservationist of the Year. And these two will go through very similar process. We'll start talking about resolutions more, and towards the end, we'll go over the awards process. So this little graphic here is one of my favorites. It just shows the timeline of the resolution adoption process. So starting over here on the left at step number 1, again, it starts with the conservation district. So this is where you as a district comes together, writes a resolution, votes on it as a district, and afterwards you fill out the resolution form and submit it to the watershed, which is the second step. So there are 10 watersheds throughout Colorado, and each district is located within one of those watersheds. So if you as a district would just submit it to your representative watershed. So once you write the resolution form and pass it on to the watershed, at the next watershed meeting for your area, typically the next one will be in the fall, sometime in September or late August. The resolution will be brought up during that meeting, and all the districts in attendance will vote, talk about this resolution that was introduced, and if needed, the resolution will be amended. Again, these districts that are in attendance of this watershed meeting, once they vote on it and it's either passed or sent back, if it's passed, it gets sent up to the CACD level, step 3. So after watershed, it gets sent up to CACD, and the deadline for the watershed to send it to CACD will be October 1st. So again, if there is a fall watershed meeting, that would be pretty much one of the last opportunities for you as a district to be able to get a resolution up to CACD for down the line. So once it's sent to CACD, we have it and we'll hold on to it. After it gets to us, it'll be assigned to one of 5 resource committees here in step 4. So I'll go over resource committees more in a little bit, but just for now, it gets assigned to certain committees where these are subject matter experts who will review the resolutions that are submitted. Going to step 5, all the resolutions that are submitted will be emailed to all the conservation districts for all the districts opportunity to just review and go through these resolutions that are submitted and just get some background information, see where things lie in terms of resolutions for this year. Moving on to step 6, like I mentioned previously, resource committee meetings. These are where the subject matter experts of these 5 topics that the resolutions will be placed under will come to meet and discuss all the resolutions that are submitted. These meetings will be occurring October 19th to the 23rd on Zoom, and these are open for all the districts to sit in on. Again, I'll go over more specific details on the resource committee meetings, but I just know that one of the final steps is for one final review by these subject matter experts. And then finally, step 7 over here on the right. So this is the CACD annual business meeting, the annual meeting that happens near the end of the year every year. This is the final step of the resolution process. And this is where the resolutions will get their final amendments, if any, and will eventually be voted on and adopted into CACD policy or sent back sent back to the districts. This year, the annual meeting will be occurring November 10th through the 12th. And yes, so this is just a quick overlook about the full year, what the process of the beginning of the resolution and where it'll end up in the end. So going a little bit more into the resource committees, again, there are 5 committees that are here. District Association Outlook and Financial, Soil and Land Use Committee, Education and Public Outreach, as well as Urban Ag. That's one committee. We have a Water Committee, and finally, an Energy Committee. So again, each resolution that's moved past the watershed level, so step 2 of that previous slide, will get assigned to one of these committees, which is whatever committee is the most fitting, it'll get assigned to there. We have representatives already selected for each committee. And again, they are subject matter experts, volunteer for this position and have a little bit more background on these specific topics. And we'll be able to just give like a little bit more of a thorough review. Like I mentioned, any district can attend these meetings, but only the committee members assigned to these committees have a vote as to whether the resolution passes on to the annual business meeting at the end of the year. This year, there's a little bit of a change where committee members have started to meet virtually every quarter. But the main purpose of this is just stay engaged on their topic areas. So they're not really voting on resolutions or anything at this point, but just as the year goes on and news and things within policy around the country or around the state changes, they just meet to just stay engaged on these areas to stay informed so they're best equipped for the final vote, which again will be occurring late October. This is where the resource committees are actually looking at each of the resolutions that are submitted and casting a final vote as to whether it gets moved to the final business meeting at the end. So again, even these this final resource committee discussion, even though as a district you won't be able to vote, you can sit in on these. Given you'll have an opportunity to potentially like speak about the resolution that's been submitted, that you submitted, just to give a little bit more background that you may not have been able to write down in the resolution form. So. And then finally, going to step 7 of that timeline that I showed previously, this is the annual business meeting where the resolution either gets voted and adopted or it gets sent back for a retry down the line. So one thing to know, only conservation districts that pays their CACD dues have an opportunity to vote, to give a final vote for resolutions, whether they're adopted or not. And conservation districts who are dues paying are allowed to send proxy voters if they don't have any board members present. I believe any district can submit a resolution, but again, you have to be dues paying to have a final vote at the annual business meeting. So when it comes time to annual business meeting, over here on the left, if a resolution throughout the process hasn't had any amendments and has been passed unanimously, and nothing more has been brought up for discussion, after the final vote, if it gets voted yes, majority, then that resolution is adopted and added to our consent calendar. And our consent calendar is basically just our list, our repository of all the adopted resolutions. And then moving over to the right here, open to the floor for discussion. So if a resolution had any amendments throughout the process or the resource committee vote wasn't unanimous, then it's open for the floor for discussion during the annual business meeting. Districts from around the state can give their input, any pushback, any feedback on the resolution, any changes they'd like to see before final vote, whether it's adopted or sent back. And then finally, this last point here, emergency resolutions. So emergency resolutions, again, as the name implies, are for emergency resolutions. The only case where we would see emergency resolution is if, going back to this timeline here, emergency resolutions will only happen if a district wasn't able to submit a resolution through this entire process. And the most common reason for that is because of the fall watershed meeting. Again, with this October 1st deadline, some watersheds, just based on how they schedule things, might not have a fall watershed meeting before this October 1st deadline, meaning that the process kind of stops right here and doesn't move on. In the cases of that, then a resolution can still be submitted, but instead of going through the watershed process, it'll have to be passed by the CACD board. And from that point, if it passes the board, then it gets sent to the annual meeting, open for discussion, all kinds of discussion, amendments, everything. And if all goes well, then eventually it might get a final vote as to be adopted or not. But ideally, would not like to see emergency resolution, would like to see a resolution move through the entire process, but this option is there for, again, emergency situations where last minute things comes up, policy, state policy, state, like a late fall state legislators meeting, and policy talks happen. Things happen last minute, so this option exists just in case. So I just want to go over some examples of resolutions that have passed in the past. So starting off, this resolution is an action item. So again, kind of like a action that you want to see taken. The title of this resolution was Clarification of Ditch Owners' Rights, submitted in 2017. So this italicized portion right here is just background information, just give some context as to what the resolution is referring to. And over here in this box, this is the actual resolution statement. So I'll just read it off. Be it resolved that CACD lobby the Colorado legislature to clarify that activities related to normal maintenance of water conveyance facilities and Water Division 2, including the installation of ditch linings and pipelines, and so on and so forth. So this resolution, again, an action item, is asking CACD to lobby Colorado legislature in order to clarify the specific topic about ditch owners' rights and how to maintain ditches. So what happened after this? This resolution was voted on and adopted by CACD. And going on to this point, so this was in 2017. The following year, our CACD lobbyist was able to present to the State Water Committee in 2018. And in the following year, in 2019, the CACD lobbyist testified in support of a House bill that's directly related to this, HB 19-1082, which is directly clarification of dish owners' rights. We testified in support of that, and eventually that bill was passed and adopted by the state legislature. So this is just a great example of a conservation district seeing a specific issue or wanting a clarification on a topical topic, submitting a formal resolution, getting adopted by the CACD, and we were able to officially lobby in support of this bill. So just a great use of the resolution process. Another example here, this resolution here is also an action item and a policy item. So an example of both. So the title is Mid-Contract Management for CRP. So CRP is a NRCS or is a FSA NRCS program. The body of this resolution reads, CACD supports the continued practices of haying, grazing, and disking for mid-contract management for CRP contracts to be included in future Farm Bill legislation. So it's just asking for CACD to support these specific practices in future Farm Bill legislation and negotiation to be included. So this resolution was passed pretty recently, just this previous year at the general membership meeting, and this resolution has moved on to the NACD level and was eventually passed at that level as well. So this is a very recent resolution. Right now, Farm Bill is currently in the Senate and the U.S. Senate going through negotiations and changes. So we're actively seeing the process, this Farm Bill negotiation play out. And so we now, CACD, Colorado as a whole has a firm stance on wanting to include these practices. And so we just got our official opinion out for the country to see. And again, this is just a great method for districts to be able to just give their official voice or opinion on certain topics. And this could potentially even affect national policy. So next, I just want to go over the resolutions form, the fillable document. So we'll share this document here, but this is the resolutions fillable Word document. It's a Word document, and we'll prefer to keep it a Word document if possible. It's a 2-page document. This first page is just instructions, some background. It lays out the deadline for submitting this to the watershed into CACD. Moving on to page 2. So this is where you as a district will actually fill out the form. So starting with the top, the title of the resolution. This is just a single sentence what the title of the resolution you want is. Point 2, the district submitting it, just type in your district name here. Point 3. So again, this resolution this is where you check off one of these boxes, whether it's a policy amendment, a new policy, or an action item. And I want to point out this red note right here. Again, resolution can be both a policy and an action item, but if you want to submit a resolution that is both a policy and action item, you would have to fill out 2 forms. So with one form, you check off either new policy or policy amendment. And then a second form, you just check off action item. The body of the rest of the form can be the same, or there can be some slight changes between the policy or the action item, but we'll just need 2 separate forms so we can just categorize them better, even if they cover the same thing. Next, here is this policy area section. So this and this blank here, you would have to reference our CACD policy book and see what topic areas is the most related to the resolution you're submitting. So on this blue link here, you can hit Control and click, and it'll send you to our CACD policy book. It's a long document, but here's the table of contents. You can look through here, see what topic area is the most fitting for the policy or the resolution you'd like to submit, whether that's, again, soil health, rangeland management, energy related. Let me go back here. Sorry, energy related. You just fill it in right here. And I'll have a few example forms here to show you in a little bit so you guys have an example of what that'll look like. Another way to access our policy book is also on our CACD website here. So the website link is coloradoacd.org. And once you type it in, it'll send you to this homepage. If you hover up here to the legislative and policy page, the very first tab, policy book, you just click on that. And then here you'll have just the past examples here, but the most recent, 2025, you open it up and it sends you to the exact same policy book here. Next, background on the need for this resolution. So this is the opportunity for you as a district to write in your narrative, the why for this resolution. Please put as much background as you'd like with your reasoning for wanting to submit this resolution. This is, again, your opportunity. Just lay out exactly your guys' reasoning for wanting to submit this. And then finally here, the 2026 resolution text. So a little similar to the title, instead of like a single sentence here in the resolution text, you'll write more of like a few sentence blurb about what policy you'd want change or what action item you'd like to see. And then finally here on the bottom, you just fill in information, the district name, the date, the district manager name, if you have one, the district president's name, phone, email, as well as just past information on whether you paid dues or not. Again, if you are a dues paying conservation district, then you're allowed to get a final vote at the annual meeting. But specifically CACD annual dues, NACD, please fill this out too, but that won't have an effect on whether you get a vote at the annual meeting at the end of the year. So let's show you some examples of these forms. I just blanked out some identifying phrases here. So the title of the resolution was CACD supports statewide uniformity of policies regarding pesticides. So this is the title. This district checked off new policy. So this was something that wasn't in the policy book that they'd like to see adopted. Here in the policy area, after referencing the policy book, they found that this best fits the soil and land use topic policy area. Here's the background of the resolution. So again, a lot of text just to show some context about what has happened recently, why they'd like to see uniformity in pesticide use here. So again, feel free to just write as much as you'd like here. And then finally, the resolution actual title. So in this case, CACD supports maintaining statewide uniformity of pesticide regulations. So in this case, it's the same as the title. But if you'd like, it can be a little bit longer, not including any of the why, but again, focusing on the what you'd like to see here. Another example. So this title of this resolution that was submitted was opposition to retention pond removal. So in this case, this is an action item. So something you'd like to see take place. This falls under the water or land use policy area. Here's some more background referencing specific bills that was passed in the state. And then finally, the action item resolution text. This is the what you'd like to see. So the action item, Colorado Association of Conservation Districts opposes the removal of any retention ponds without an environmental impact or NEPA study undertaken. Again, this is multiple sentences, but again, this portion here is asking what you'd like to see. So please put in what you'd like to see here. The background here is the why you'd like to see it. One thing I'd like to note is going back to this first new policy submission. A lot of the reasons why resolutions that are submitted, or one of the reasons that you'll see a resolution fail is because a district submitted a resolution that already exists within our policy. So going back to our policy book here, it's a lot to read through. So one thing I recommend, just hitting Control plus F to pull up the search function up here. Let's go back here. So if you're interested in submitting a resolution, I recommend just looking for keywords within the policy book. So looking at pesticides, did I spell that correctly? So just looking through here and just scrolling through a little bit, we can see that supports maintaining statewide uniformity of pesticide regulations. So this is pretty much the exact text here, but it's already represented in our policy book. So just something as you as a district to take note of, to make sure to look through, make sure that whatever you want to see isn't already an um, existing like policy within our book. So like the second example, opposition to retention pond removal. So this is the blurb that was here, that was submitted. So this was adopted into our policy book as an action item and as a policy. So again, it goes to show if you have any thoughts, just or any hesitation, just look through our policy book, use the search function, and maybe or maybe not that resolution you'd like to submit is located in here. So, okay. So finally, going to the awards section. So I talked a whole bunch about resolutions. So the awards process, pretty similar. So the awards are the opportunity for conservation districts to just recognize individuals or programs across Colorado that you feel like should get a shout out, get recognition for the work they've done this year. Again, these are the 6 award categories. And we have a awards nomination form, very similar to the resolutions form. It just gives instructions out here. We'd want a statement, a blurb of the nomination, of who you're nominating and why they should be nominated. Feel free to submit up to 5 photos as an attachment of the project or the individual. And if you'd like to submit an award, we'd like to see it submitted through the Colorado ACD general email. So cacd@coloradoacd.org. That's a general email. If you have an awardee you'd like to nominate. These are decided by the awards committee within CACD. And then at the annual meeting at the end of the year, the winner will be recognized, as well as the nominating district who nominated them. So very, very simple form. Just you write who the nomination is for, whether individual program, what their name is, just background information. You fill in here, the conservation district you are, or the conservation district they reside in here. As the submitter, you'll fill out your information here. Down here, just write out a narrative up to 1,000 words, just giving backgrounds on why this individual or project should be nominated. So again, this form will be available online, and we'll send it out as well for you to fill out and submit. And I believe that's it. If there are any questions, these are contact information for the field staff. So here I am on the right. I cover the Upper South Platte, Lower South Platte, and the Republican River watersheds. And here are 2 colleagues covering other watersheds. Here are the contact information here. So that's everything. I'm here for any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you so much, TJ. That was very helpful and in depth.
Yeah, it's very cool to hear more about some of our partners, and we don't get to see all of the nitty-gritty that goes on sometimes. It looks like someone by the name of Grasslands Roadmap has their hand raised, so please feel free to unmute and ask a question.
Well, this is Maggie Hanna with Central Colorado Conservation District. I apologize if I missed this, but one question I have is how the process of which you remove a resolution from the book, if that were of interest.
Ooh, okay, so question about removing a specific policy or resolution from our policy book. No, that's a great question. I believe I'm going to have to defer to Abby to this, but I believe just going back to the form, clicking off this policy amendment portion here, just changing the wording of the policy would be one method of adjusting what's within the existing policy book here.
Yeah, that's a great answer, TJ. Yes, if a policy needs to be amended or changed, you can utilize that policy amendment and you would just submit it as essentially go through the same process as a policy item. If you're looking to remove an entire policy out of the policy book, that has to be submitted as an action item.
Very interesting. Yeah, times change, I guess, and sometimes we get new ideas in science and have to rechange our policy book. Good question, Maggie. Thank you for that. Anyone else have questions today while we have CACD represented here?
And again, any questions down the line, feel free to shoot us an email too. We'll get back to you there.
I think this was going to be a great recording to have for watershed meetings too, so that we can also, do our little watershed 101 and then let people know, hey, if you, have some time and you want to just watch a video, it'll be great for folks to get a recap. It was a really good overview of the whole process. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you, Callie. And no, exactly right. Well, this recording we'll have on our CACD website for reference. And again, the CSCB Coffee Hour YouTube channel, if anybody would like to reference on their own time as well. So
Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for attending. Thank you, TJ, for the presentation and Abby for the Q&A assist there. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.